We're in the show.
All right, we're live.
We're
Now I'm
live.
gonna stop my camera and restart it because it's pretty blurry.
Yeah, that's weird, man.
I don't
Why you so
know.
blurry?
I
Are you
don't know.
drunk? I know you're drunk,
There we
Amar.
go. No,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it's back.
Kind of
All
camera
right.
you got? 1922 camera? What's going on?
Eh,
I see
this
we got
thing is
Dan,
1080. It's high def.
we got Richard, Dan, and Brian, the Five Fishermen Dish. All right on, man. What's going on, everybody? What is going on? Appreciate y'all being here.
All right.
We got
people
Theo from Dallas Fort
Texas.
Worth. Right on.
There we go.
Can you see? I'm gonna bring up the YouTube thing here. Actually, I'm gonna put it on my phone. I got a new phone tomorrow. First
All
time
right.
in 8 years.
That's called value investing.
Yes.
You held it on for too really long.
That's true.
I'm coaching basketball here, Josh. You got any tips for coaching basketball, first and second graders?
Yeah, make sure they shoot. Make sure they get this. That's a tip. No, 100%, man. That's cool. It's the first and second graders?
Yeah.
Amar has the one that went to the moon. That's the one. I don't get it, Brian. I think Brian Fly Fisherman is drinking too many beers while he's Fly Fisherman. Hey, Denise. We got Miguel from Guatemala. Miguel Mayorga. Wow. Right on, man.
Appreciate All right, we got 10 people, so I'm going to start sharing my screen here so I can do my disclosures.
Please do.
Yeah, disclose. All right. Today we're going to talk about, the markets have had such an up run in 2024 that a lot of people are looking to take profits. A lot of people are trying to, think about charities and how they can impact other people. And so we thought we'd do a little presentation on maximizing that charitable impact. And so we have some disclosures. I'm a SEC registered firm. We're not entering into a client agreement. This is strictly for educational purposes. And so that's all I have. Josh, do you have anything?
Just Dan says, Amar, you need to have a good team mom.
Yeah. So this league is actually in Coronado, which is a Navy town. And so we got a lot of good moms and dads participating. We got
wait a second, Mar. I got to interrupt. Holy crap. Harry Chu is back. Harry Chu. I haven't seen him for years. Take profits at these ultra low prices. They're basically giving away Tesla shares. Oh my God. Amar. Harry Chu's been saying the exact same comment for as long as I've been on YouTube.
God.
Hey, we keep going, man.
All right. So charitable giving, right? And for most people, there's two main ways that you can give in a tax efficient manner, right? One is gifting securities to a donor advised fund. And for those individuals that are 70 and older, we can do what's called qualified charitable distributions. And so the goal today is to educate on how do we use the combination of these two to leave a legacy and to do our ongoing gifting. And so I'm just going to start with some basic education on what a donor advised fund is. A donor advised fund, for those that don't know, can you see my screen? I don't know if it's coming up full screen or not.
We got it.
All right. So instead of giving cash to a charity, what you do is you take appreciated securities and you fund a donor advised fund. That allows the donor to get an immediate charitable donation into that donor advised fund. So that reduces that is that one receipt that you have for that charitable distribution contribution. In the donor advised fund, you select funds, you invest it, the money grows, it goes up and down just like the stock market, right? But then over time, you have the flexibility to give to charities. So typically when you have this large growth in your investments, right, you can take those investments, put into a donor advised fund. You don't have to know what the charities are. You just have to be charitably inclined at this point. And then over time, you can give to charities that that align with your values, right? The donor advised fund, gives you that immediate tax deduction. So, if you had somebody that had about $250,000 in income and they're using the standard deduction, then they're paying approximately $31,000 in federal taxes.
All right, Amar, I got to interrupt you again. Here comes Penelope. It's Amar. I like him so much. Why can't you be more like that nice boy, Josh?
Yeah. We should also tell people this is streaming on our Client First Capital YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps all the YouTube algorithms and more people find our content, right, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you gotta promote it, man. And don't forget to promote other things too.
Yep. So going back to this, if
I won't interrupt you again, so just keep going, man.
So if you put 70,000 in the donor advised fund, now you can itemize, right? And so that itemization gives you more deductions than if you did a standard deduction. So even if you're funding a donor advised fund for 2 years, 3 years, it still helps you from a tax perspective. You spend roughly about 8,000 less in taxes, and you get the benefit of removing all those capital gains, which could be sizable for people this year.
Denise asks, are scholarship funds donor advised funds? Do you know, Amar? I don't know.
Scholarship funds sound like 529 plans, like the Scholar Shares, and those are not donor advised funds.
Gotcha. Now, just along these lines, so let's just say you plan on giving $100,000 over the next 4 years, $25,000 a pop. With a DAF, donor advised fund, you could put all of that $100,000 into 1 year.
Correct. And you can give it over 4 years.
And give it over 4 years. Okay, guys.
Yeah. And so we got a couple of examples that we're going to go over at the end of these slides that will illustrate that one specifically. So qualified charitable distribution. So what is that? Well, I know a lot of people have heard about it because the legislation has been on, off, on, off, on, off. And finally now in 2015, it's on, meaning that it's become permanent. So as soon as you turn 70 and a half, you can distribute about 107,000 to charities in 2024, and that comes above the line, meaning that you're not. It's not a deduction. You don't even pay income on that. So think about it. Pre-tax money while you're working goes to the charity, and you don't even show that income on your tax return, right? So qualified charitable distributions count for your RMDs, right? So for most people now, that's 73 and older. But if you're already in RMD age, it's probably 70 and older for you. And you're already making those distributions anyways. So a good way to reduce your adjusted gross income has impacts on Medicare premiums because now your IRMA income is a lot lower because it's pre-tax and potential taxes on Social Security. So, I made this little chart here to kind of compare the two. And I think this is a good point in the presentation to also say that if you haven't already, we have a newsletter that goes out once a month. There's 11, what do you call that? 11 papers or 11 emails that you get throughout the year. So January through November. And it's
issues.
Yeah, issues. Yeah, exactly. Issues. And it's filled with estate planning, tax, and retirement planning topics, as well as investment topics. So please definitely go to our website to subscribe, which is clientfirstcap.com. So going back to this, IRA distributions, QCD, you have to sell the securities in there because in your 401 or IRA to make it cash, and then you distribute those assets, right? It reduces your taxable income, meaning it comes above. It's not a deduction. It's before you get your gross income. There's an age requirement, 70 and a half, and then it goes immediately to your charities, right? You cannot pay it over a period of time. When the money comes out, that's when you get the benefit. The donor advised fund.
Remember, the 70.5 is not RMD time now, but that's what you can still use the QCD. So it's you don't have to be 75. It's 70.5. QCDs are freaking fantastic. There's no other way around.
And then for donor advised funds, you can put more than cash. You can put appreciated stock. You could put real estate. You could put shares of a business, right? So there's many ways to fund a donor advised fund with assets that have a large gain. Remember, 2024, most assets have a large gain that you can put into these donor advised funds.
Denise says, how do you know which charities are qualified for QCDs, DeMar? Do you know?
Awesome. It has to be a public 501c charity. You can ask the charity for their IRS letter that states that they're a public charity. And the same things with the DAF. So you can't take money from a QCD or DAF and give it to a private foundation or a private nonprofit. So those two would not work. But like if you're wanting to give to Wounded Warriors, who's our tenant above us.
Oh, really? That's oh, no kidding. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, we are in the same building as there's, I guess they do it regionally, but Southern California, Arizona, Nevada offices are headquartered in this building.
You know those guys?
Yeah. I know some of them. I don't know all of them.
Right, no, I'm saying. But I mean the guys who work upstairs from you? I mean,
yeah, we share the same elevator.
From you, well, you're saying more from you at your USA time.
Yeah. Sometimes all right, I'm going to move on here. So donor advised fund, right? We got to know how to use donor advised funds and QCDs together to get the maximum benefit. So one of the things that we can do is look at some examples, right? So here's John and Mary. John is 72. He has a $20,000 RMD this year. Mary's 65, so she's not quite RMD age, and has many stocks. One of them is NVIDIA. She has a cost basis of $1,000. Fair market value is $30,000. But she doesn't want to sell her NVIDIA. She's into the AI stuff and thinks quantum computing is only going to increase over the years. They have $100,000 in cash, and their goal is to give $50,000 over the next 5 years to charities, right? So, sizable charitable gift. And this slide did not update with the other parts that I put in here, but they also want to give to charities upon their passing. So they have no children, right, in this example. So John can do a QCD. He can do $20,000 from his IRA directly to qualified charities. This satisfies his RMD as well as his takes $20,000 off his taxable income. Now, Mary can donate $30,000 of the NVIDIA stock into a donor advised fund. But you're saying, Amar, she doesn't want to give the NVIDIA stock. Well, once you give it into the donor advised fund, you can turn around and repurchase the same NVIDIA stock. So what did we just accomplish? Number one, her cost basis from 1,000 is now 30,000, right? So that gain she would normally pay taxes on. Now she doesn't have to pay taxes on that gain. Now she has 30,000 in the donor advised fund. She gets a tax deduction. So now we got 20,000 above the line and 30,000 below the line. She avoided the capital gain, and now they can grant to charities through that donor advised fund. Right.
Sweet, yeah.
So combining the benefits of a QCD and donor advised fund together maximizes their tax impact for this family. Another thing
Jeremy. Jeremy just quoted. That's funny. So look at Jeremy coming up in the example, man.
There you go. So Jeremy has two IRAs, right? One, and I find this to be the case with a lot of people that have. When IRAs first came out, they were putting after-tax contributions into IRAs. On their 8606, they're tracking the cost basis. It's just a big kind of headache here. But he has one IRA of which 15,000 out of 21,000 is after-tax, i.e., non-deductible contributions. And then he has a 401k from work with 158,000 that he's rolling over into his IRA. If Jeremy were to take distributions, there's a pro rata calculation that they have to do to find out how much is taxable. So in this case, roughly 8% is non-taxable, 91% is taxable. Jeremy could also do a QCD if they're charitably inclined. And the benefit of a QCD and how it's written when they made it permanent is that all pre-tax money comes out first, right? So a lot of people don't know this, right? If you're charitably inclined and you're setting up a donor advised fund and you have after-tax contributions, you can change this ratio right here. Josh, can you see my mouse as I'm highlighting?
I cannot see your mouse. No,
okay. Sorry. This 8.4% that's non-taxable and the 91% that's taxable, you're going to reduce the 91% that's taxable and increase the non-taxable amount. You see that ratio? That would change if you did QCDs out of an IRA, right? So it's good to do QCDs when you have a mix of after-tax and pre-tax accounts. Yes, we're going to take questions at the end here.
Are you starring the questions tomorrow? I can't do it, so make sure
I can't star question. Oh, yeah, I didn't know you could. Yeah, dude. I'm learning something every day here with Josh. Good old Josh.
Me, kid, I'll take it as the technology. I'm Mr. Technology.
Yeah. Here's another example. If you're doing a donor advised fund, most custodians, Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelities of the world, will use average cost basis. And if you're reinvesting your dividends, they're just averaging those dividends out and giving you the average cost basis. When you're funding a donor advised fund, you want to be very specific with the lots that you're funding. So you want to talk to your custodians and say, hey, take me off this average cost basis and give me lot cost basis. And you can definitely do that with all custodians. It takes a little bit of paperwork. I think it's a one-page document and probably 3 business days for them to process it. Maybe end of the year, a little bit more. But anyways, here's an example of somebody that has average cost basis. And you can see they're just reinvesting their dividends. And if you look at the percentage gain, and every time I do this, it gives me a slide thing that pops up. But you can see their gains went from 194 to 193. Then it started going down, 181, 175, 174. And then September 24th of 2015, that dividend was 200%. It's bigger than their dividends from 2014. So the idea here is we want to stack rank these dividends and give the highest percentage of gains into a donor advised fund. That way you're removing the most amount of capital gains into the donor advised fund. So hopefully that makes sense. Did I explain that well, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right, cool.
And it's not that hard to do the specific identification. I mean, the custodian, it's not that big of a deal anymore. So a lot of people, in the old days, it used to be a pain in the ass, and now it's just not.
I think even Fidelity allows you to just click like one of those buttons and it automatically switches. So make sure, even if you're not doing any of this charitable stuff, you definitely want to do from lot basis. And maybe this is a good idea for a video, Josh, in the early year, is what's the difference with average cost basis and lot basis? Because you can take short-term, long-term, you can do FIFO, you can do LIFO. There's all these different ways that you can take money out.
That's a great idea. That's 100%.
I'll write that down here on a piece of paper here shortly. All right, next example. This is the last example, and we'll get to questions here. We try to get to questions at 20 minutes, and we're a little bit late here, but we'll get there. What about people that are phasing into retirement, right? And this happens more often than not with couples that have age difference between them, and they want to retire at different points in lives, or they have different passions. Sometimes some people's jobs at the end of the career is easier. They can do it with like 10, 15 hours a week and still make buco bucks. So here we have John and Betty. John wants to retire in 5 years. He makes $350,000 a year. Betty's a business owner. She wants to retire in 2 years. She makes $400,000 a year. Now, they want to also leave some funds to charities when they pass. And this couple, they do tithing. So 10% of their income goes directly to their church. And so, they've been giving about $80,000 a year to charities. And so they, in this process, are trying to figure out what's the best way to maximize their taxes until as they transition, right? So we've identified some securities that they could do a donor advised fund with, and so we're going to talk about how they do this. So right now, in year one, and I'm sorry, like all these notes that I had in here didn't update, and so I'm going to have to go over the place. So right now, they make $750,000. They're giving $80,000 to charities, so their taxable income is $670,000. If you look at the federal income tax rate, 670 puts you in the highest tax rate, 37%, right? Or 750 puts them in the highest. The charitable giving gets them to the bottom of the 37, so the top of the 35. So in year one, we can fund a donor advised fund with 150,000 and still give 80,000 to their church as a charitable contribution. So their total income for that year will be 520. That puts them at the bottom of the 35% tax bracket for year one. Year two, those funds are growing in the donor advised fund, and the 80,000 they continue to tithe because their income is still close to 80,000. In year three, Betty's going to retire, so her income is going to drop out, and so now their tithing is going to be closer to 35,000, right? And so year 3, 4, and 5, while John is still earning money, they can use the standard deduction, which is right now is 32,000. If it's inflated for with inflation, will be higher than that. And at 350, their income is in the middle of I think it's the 24% tax bracket. And with the standard deduction, they're paying lower taxes, and their charitable contributions don't have the same impact, right? Not from the church's perspective, but from their tax perspective.
Right.
And so that's why the donor advised fund, when they were in the higher tax bracket, they got a bigger bang for their buck from a tax perspective, and they're still giving to charities in the years 3, 4, and 5. So this is a good way if you're phasing into retirement and you still want to give funds to start to do this over time. And then, in 5 years, Betty's now 70 and a half, right? And if they're going to continue, they can start to switch over to the QCDs. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water because I've been talking here, and I'm going to remove that from the screen, and let's go through some questions.
I make sure my hair looks good. Mara said it looks like it's rolled out of the sack. I was like, dude.
All right, first question I see here. If Josh, if I didn't see anything above this, I think there were some comments, but no questions.
No, yeah, cool.
So Denise is asking here, how do you know which charities qualify? Again, 501c public charities. You can ask the charity for their IRS letter, which states that they are a public charity and they're 501c, and the IRS has identified that. All charities have it. In fact, some charities have a link on their website that, like, hey, boom, we qualify for your money, basically.
Yep.
I'm going to skip Jeremy's comment here. Another one, good to know, no private foundations. That's absolutely key. A lot of charities are private foundations or are nonprofit, but they're not designated as a 501c. They're designated as a private nonprofit. Can't do those. So make sure you get the.
Yeah, there are a lot of community foundations that are probably 501c, but you got to double check, man. You got to double check.
Is there a distribution time limit for donor advised fund? No. You can keep it for your whole lifetime. In fact, recently with the Secure Act, that just, I guess, what is that? 2020 that passed. Now you can make IRA beneficiaries your donor advised fund. So let's say, when you pass, you want to give 100,000 to a charity or a 10,000, whatever. You can make that beneficiary in your donor advised fund, and you can have IRA assets go directly to your donor advised fund. The only limit here that I would probably talk a little bit about is that most donor advised funds, to stay active, is that you have to give at least 5% of the assets over 3 years, right? They don't want it just to be there and sitting idle, right? So you do have to give $50 or something every so often.
Donor advised funds are always under scrutiny too, from a political perspective. Denise asked this question. So the idea that you're just going to have this accumulating and accumulating and accumulating is not going to happen. I would be very suspecting that the next time the Democrats take over, they'll put some limitations on DAFs.
Yeah, I mean,
they wanted to last time around, and as such, it's always going to be on their thing. So,
yeah. So, Client First Cap is our website. If you go to the bottom, there's a link to join our newsletter, so you can just do that right there. You donate. So I would ask Jeremy. Most people just give out of their paycheck, which is cash, which you're not taking advantage of getting rid of capital gains. 100%. Just like you give every 2 weeks or monthly out of your paycheck, you can do the same thing. You can set a reoccurring out of the donor advised fund to go directly to your local church.
Cash is the worst thing to give. Jeremy's, just a poor boy from Maine, so that's all he's got. But for most people, cash is the worst thing to give because it has no cost base. I mean, whatever your cash is. So there's no gain in cash. So you really want to be giving away gains, not things with zero cost basis.
Yeah. Any thoughts for taking RMDs and placing in taxable brokerage accounts where ARMR brackets are a concern? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strategies around that, but you have to take RMDs. There's no way around taking RMDs.
As opposed to what were you thinking, Dan? I'm confused.
Maybe if you can elaborate on your question, we'll get to it here in a bit.
Yeah.
I already did that one.
You told us that twice, Jeremy. That's not really a question. That guy had to go take a dump. He said,
all right, that was good. Answered all the questions. For me, I think if you're charitably inclined, creating a strategy around your giving can impact your taxes big time. So if you're a business owner or you have an IRA or you have stocks that have gone up 2024, it's a good time to start doing some planning. I will say a lot of the custodians, we work with Fidelity and Schwab. They're starting to have some backups, So what normally took 3 or 4 business days may take 5 or 6 business days. So be concerned. Don't start on December 28th. Is what I'm trying to say.
My man Harry Chu give me some props. He goes, the wisest thing I've ever heard Josh say is that the only way to beat the market is by accepting concentration risk. That's 100%, Harry. If you want to beat the market, you can't have market returns. You can't have it spread out like the market. You got to be concentrated. So that goes back to charitable giving. If we have a massive gain in one of your stocks and you don't have errors or anything like that, man, why would you not accept a donor advised fund or a QCD if it's in an IRA to at least allow you to reduce some of your taxable income, especially when it comes back to what Danielle was saying with IRMA. I mean, if we can reduce our taxable income, which also reduces our effective IRMA potential in the future, just use what the tax man gives you, man. Use what the tax man gives you.
And the other thing is, if you don't have beneficiaries and it's going to charities anyways, you might as well get some of the tax benefits while you're alive, right? Don't wait, because those assets are going to pass to charities tax-free anyways, right? And oftentimes we see this with two types of folks. Maybe you don't have any children, or maybe one spouse predeceases the other spouse, right? And so there's a portion that's going to siblings or nieces and nephews, but a large amount is going to charities. So sometimes to think about that.
We're up against it, man. So good stuff, Amar. Danielle, you want to end? Amar, you want to end with this last question?
Armor brackets. Thinking best strategies is to use low or zero dividend ETFs. I guess my confusion is what does that have to do with RMDs though? Because RMDs. So yeah, you take your RMD and where do you put it? If you find zero dividend investments that are aligned with your risk profile and all the other compliance things I should say to make sure it's an appropriate investment, yes, zero dividend would be great.
Yep.
All right, we're at 30, so we're going to end it here. I'm going to say just two things here, Josh, that if you haven't already, please like and subscribe our videos and join the Client First Capital Learning YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, it's at clientfirstcap.com. And scroll to the bottom, just put your email in. It's just 11 emails a year. We don't do any spamming. We don't sell any data.
All these guys, they're like, thank you, Amar. And Josh, too. Josh, too, I guess. And don't forget, guys.
I will be back next year, right? Because I think this is the last video for us as we go into the holiday season. I'm trying to herd children to play basketball, and I will talk to you guys next year.
And don't forget, I'll be going live again at 7 p.m. tonight with my man, Dr. Kevin Hickerson. We're going to talk all things nuclear energy. So if you're interested in that, then I'm here for Amar. Just watch Josh waiting for more Amar vids. Right on. All right, let you guys go. God bless. We'll see y'all.
All right. Take care. Bye now.